I'm Glenn Barkley. I'm Senior Curator, Museum of Contemporary Art, Sydney. I'm also the Curator of String Theory, Focus on Australian Art, and it's an exhibition that's part of the Focus series that we've been doing at the MCA for the past 10 years. In the past, it's been about artists with over a decade's practice, whereas in this instance, it's about artists working with a particular media, and that is expanded notions of fibre, textiles, weaving, and craft-based traditions. String theory is a scientific principle that suggests a theory of everything, and I think in terms of this exhibition, string theory suggests a sort of open-ended, expanded notion of what textile and fibre and craft might be. Quite often it's talking about fibre, talking about certain traditions, but transforming it into another media. So for instance, there's baskets which take the forms of photos, and then there's a whole lot of things around sort of social activity too. So the craft might be the outcome of a much sort of deeper social agenda. I think it's one of those, in terms of the craft-based traditions, quite often they're traditions that are handed on from one person to another, and that could be through family or through community. So links are made between people in an exchange of knowledge. I quite often hear with contemporary art that a work might be about community engagement. This isn't about community engagement, this is community engagement. Or that artwork might be about social activity. This isn't about social activity, it's inherently social. Francis Djulibing from Ramingining in the Northern Territory has made an amazing yam string vine, which is actually connected to a yam string vine that we already have in the Power collection, which was collected in 1984. And since that time, not many of these yam string vines have been made for gallery display or gallery exhibition. And we went to Ramingining and spoke to them about what we would like for the show. And Francis has made an amazing sort of contemporary remake of the yam string vine, which is both new, but also inherently linked to tradition as well. Tony Albert's work, Optimism, also sort of plays with this idea of tradition in that Tony is a photographer, he's a sculptor who lives and works in Brisbane. He's of a younger generation, part of the Proper Now collective. So he has this sort of link to an immediate community in Proper Now. But then with this work, there's this idea of transformation in that he's taken a basket, a particular type of far north Queensland bicorneal basket, and he's brought it into a contemporary context and he's using it in different contexts. So you'll see Tony has taken photos of his cousin walking around Brisbane, and inside the basket are different objects that might relate to where he is. So he's at the football, he's at the post office, he's at the beach, but it's something that's used. It's not just something that's in a museum. That's a basket for use. You can use it every day. It's incredibly strong and incredibly tough. I think the general public, this is the sort of show that will really appeal to the general public because it does have a sense of spirit to it that I think is quite compelling and that I think the general public respond to. There's also a sense of when you see some of these things of thinking, well, I could do that as well, and I think that's a nice thing to take away from exhibitions. I think you can see these things have such a sort of energy and an openness and a generosity of spirit to them that I think will appeal to the general public and to a general audience. And like any great art, I think once you sort of tap beyond that sort of simple sort of formal or aesthetic level and then you start to dip into it deeper, there's these incredible political and social contexts to a lot of the work that are sort of bubbling underneath, which I think is quite an amazing thing and sort of marks them as being really interesting and fantastic art forms.